Call this meeting of the City Commission to order. Will you please rise with me and recite the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so we will begin the meeting with the proclamation of the Ralph Wild Red Berry Day in Pittsburgh, received by Diana and/or Bob Berry. How does this work? Do I? Okay. Not how to do this. All kinds of learning happens.
It's like a staring contest.
A bunch of us are in this thing. All right, so the proclamation, is this on? Okay. So the proclamation reads, whereas Ralph Wild Red Berry was born on November 20th, 1906 in Conway Springs, Kansas. Soon after his birth, the Berry family moved to West Liberty, a mining camp located 2 miles south of Chicopee, Kansas. And whereas at a young age, Berry frequented the Pittsburg YMCA, where he began boxing. He won several titles while boxing until he broke both hands, winning the middleweight championship of Kansas. And whereas following his boxing injury, Berry turned to wrestling. He was a 9-time National Wrestling Association World Light Heavyweight Champion. His wrestling career spanned more than 40 years as a wrestler and as a manager, and whereas Berry earned his famous Wild Red moniker through a publicity stunt in Kansas City, Kansas, where he demonstrated his agility by swinging from a courthouse tree while wearing a leopard skin suit. Local law enforcement officials were not impressed, and Wild Red was hauled off for disturbing the peace. And whereas outside the ring, Berry was active in political circles. In 1947, he was elected as the Parks and Public Property Commissioner of the City of Pittsburgh. On 2 occasions, he has served the citizens of Pittsburgh as interim mayor. Now, therefore, I, Jeremy Johnson, President of the Board of Commissioners for the City of Pittsburgh, Kansas, do hereby proclaim Monday, November 20th, 2017, as Ralph Wild Red Berry Day in Pittsburgh, and call upon all citizens to join in honoring Wild Red for his remarkable career and outstanding service to the City of Pittsburgh.
Commissioners, I just wanted to take a minute and note on the screen. You can see future development of, I think it's Pittsburgh Highlands is the official name. And through the middle of it is the new road, which we will be calling Wild Red Road. I've messed that up twice today. So we will continue to honor Wild Red, and that road should be under construction within the next few months, and away we go. So good stuff.
Awesome. All right, I would also like to mention, before we move on to the rest of the meeting, that Mayor Michael Gray is actually on the phone. I am simply filling in, as I am the warm body and the president of the board, to fill in for him as such. So, public input. Is there anyone here for public input before we begin the meeting? If not, we will close public input session and move on to the consent agenda. So, Darren had mentioned to me that item B will need removed from the consent agenda as we are not covering it for tonight. Are there any other items to come off of the consent agenda?
If nothing else, I move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda minus item B. Roll call vote.
Gray,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Ketterman,
Aye.
Munsell,
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Approved. A public hearing. So, request to vacate. The City of Pittsburgh advertised for public hearing November 14th, 2017 at the City Commission meeting commencing at 5:30 p.m. in the City Commission room located in the Law Enforcement Center, 201 North Pine, for the purpose of vacating a utility easement in the 2800 block of North Broadway.
Thank you, President and Commissioners. Quickly, before you open the hearing, Have an aerial here showing the property that's in question. You're looking, basically, if you ran north of this into the sewer line there is a utility easement sitting underneath that building. Years ago, before that building was built, the sewer did extend up through that. The sewer has since been removed from service and rerouted. Unfortunately, at that time, the utility easement was not vacated. The building went ahead and was built, and the property just recently switched hands. When they did the title search, they found that there was still a utility easement there, and the new owners are requesting that that utility easement be vacated. Had several calls from the utilities because they weren't quite sure what area we were talking about, because what we sent them would be underneath a building. And after hearing that, yes, that was indeed where it was at, they had no issues whatsoever in vacating it.
Okay.
Is there any utilities of any kind being used in that at all right now?
No, there's not. So, that manhole, if in your packet, there's a 10-foot area there right at the very bottom of that. That's where our manhole is sitting. Everything else, there's no public utilities in.
Okay. Well, we will, at this time, go ahead and open the public hearing. Anyone who is here to speak on the part of the hearing may come forward and do so. If there is no one here to speak for the public hearing, we'll go ahead and close it.
If there are no questions, I'll move to approve.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Hey, special presentation, pilot study. Director of Public Utilities, Matt Bacon, and Special Projects Engineer, Dr. John Bailey, will provide an update on the pilot study conducted of the city's wastewater treatment facility. Matt.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners, or President of the Board and Commissioners. I kind of drew the short straw tonight. Real quick, a couple weeks ago, you may have seen a tweet or a Facebook post regarding we had a unit that was running algae through it, glass tubes and the module, and we want to take just a real quick minute to talk about what was going on there. So earlier in the year, you all passed the project for us to do the trickling filter rehab, and that kicked off some conversation with Dr. Bailey, and through the process of that, it's evolved. So there's some research being done around treatment of wastewater with algae. There's currently, the company that came down to do the pilot study is working on a plant that's supposed to be go online later part of this year to use algae in the treatment process. And so because of our facilities and some opportunities and the size of our facility, they took an interest. And so we encouraged them to come down, trial that process, run it through some of their membranes. We conducted some sampling. We're currently waiting on some of those results to see what that did. There's really not much that's going to take place from that at the current time, but we didn't want to pass on an opportunity to explore potential options for treatment of wastewater in the near future, if they become viable and a reasonable option. And so that's basically the summary of kind of what was going on, and we wanted to just kind of follow up with what we were putting out there. So is there any questions I can answer for you tonight regarding that?
Next step, what do we do?
We're really waiting on results. There's quite a bit. This would be a long-term process, viable. We've never really talked cost or full implementation. We'll see what it does at their facility that they're going to bring online. There's a lot they have a lot of pilot studies also in Wisconsin. A lot of the dairy farms and different things like that utilize some of this technology, and it's really just starting to grow, and there's a lot of steps to it, and the cost effectiveness of that treatment process. So it's really a long-term, just checking out the viability of the
Where's this a plant that they're opening up?
Salt Lake City, Utah. Correct? Yeah. Salt Lake City.
Great.
So That's all I have. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt.
Matt?
All right, next on the agenda, resolution number 1199. Consider approval of resolution number 1199, amending resolution number 1193, establishing the equivalent residential unit ERU rate, and undeveloped property rate, and providing an effective date of January 1st, 2018. Jamie.
Evening, Commissioners. If you recall, during the 2018 budget process back in July and August, we had a 1% utility rate increase in the budget for 2018. And this is the legal mechanism that allows us to have a 1% rate increase effective January 1st of next year. The resolution 1199 is for the stormwater fees. We'll have to approve each one of these on a separate basis. So the first one is the resolution. I'm asking for your approval of that, formal approval of that tonight.
If no questions, I move to approve.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Ordinance number G1271. Consider approval of ordinance number G1271, amending section 82-141 of the Pittsburg City Code, fixing rates and minimum charges for water service.
Again, this allows us to raise the water rates by 1% effective January 1st of 2018. Your approval on that.
If no objections, I move to approve.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Ordinance number G-1272. Consider approval of ordinance number G-1272, amending section 82-141 of the Pittsburg City Code, fixing rates and minimum charges for sewer service.
Again, and finally, this is the ordinance that allows us to raise the sewer rates by 1% effective January 1st of 2018. I'm asking for your approval on that.
Move to approve.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Ordinance number G-1273. Consider approval of ordinance number G-1273, amending section 2-134 of the Pittsburg City Code in order to remove the responsibility for the operation, supervision, and maintenance of the Memorial Auditorium Division from the Department of Parks and Recreation.
Mayor and Commissioners, items D, E, and F are all related to Memorial Auditorium. First I want to start off by asking Chris to come up to the microphone. This is Chris Patterson. He's new manager at Memorial Auditorium. I think he's been on the job, how long have you been on the job? You made it a month? A month. You want to say anything? I told him I wouldn't put him on the spot. But.
I'm excited to be here. It's a fantastic building and a great staff, and I look forward to working with them and producing lots of exciting new programming for the community.
As we did our exit interview with the previous person that held the position, there were several things that were brought out about possible expectations of somebody in that role and where we could do a better job, specifically around security issues at Memorial during events. We now serve alcohol on a regular basis, so you always have to have somebody that's not only being a responsible bartender, but a responsible security person and telling people when they've had enough. We've actually got numerous facility maintenance issues that go on there. As you recall, in the last 3 years, we replaced a $350,000 stage lift. Just this year, we replaced a part of the bricks that were peeling away from the back. And so as you go down the list, the final thing that jumps out is really marketing. How well you market Memorial Auditorium in an environment where we now have the Bicknell Center, we have the Larry Fields, Frisco Event Center, and numerous others popping up. Memorial is a publicly subsidized building, So with that being said, the community's already made a decision that they're going to put tax money directly into it. So I think it's imperative that we give it our best effort to try to get as many people in the community in a seat for an event in Memorial. And to do that, we just keep progressing. And part of that exit interview gave us the opportunity to help Kim. Kim is the current Parks and Rec Director. I wouldn't want to say we burdened her with the farmer's market 10 months ago, but she was kind enough to step up and take the farmer's market as part of the Parks Department. So we were looking at it. This was an opportunity to not only hire Chris, but move it over to the city manager's office where it's much easier for security, facility maintenance, and marketing to occur on behalf of the Memorial Auditorium outside of the Parks Department. So Henry, as he always does, went through the code of ordinances, found out where we had discrepancies as far as where Memorial was and where it needed to be. That's what's reflected in these 3 ordinances, and we're both here to answer your questions. And once again, welcome aboard, Chris. He's already done a great job in his first month, and he's going to be here a long time.
Thank you.
Do you plan on changing that Memorial Auditorium manager position to a department head level?
No, not at this time.
So he would stay just as a manager?
Yeah, whatever the position was that we filled, I think it was Memorial Auditorium Manager. He'd report directly to Jay, who's an Assistant City Manager, and he wouldn't be a department head level.
All right.
If no further questions, I move approval.
I'll second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thanks for coming, Chris.
Chris?
Welcome aboard, yeah.
Thank you.
Ordinance number G-1274. Consider approval of ordinance number G-1274, amending section 2-94 of the Pittsburg City Code to create subsection F in order to include the Memorial Auditorium Division under the duties and responsibilities of the city manager.
And I stand corrected, there were 4 ordinances instead of 3, so this once again is related to moving Memorial into the city manager's office.
No questions, I move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Ordinance number G-1275. Consider approval of ordinance number G-1275, creating sections 2-96 through and including 2-129 of the Pittsburg City Code in order to place the responsibility of the operation, supervision, and maintenance of the Memorial Auditorium Division under the responsibility of the city manager.
Number 3.
There's no questions. I move to approve.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Last but not least, ordinance number G-1276. Consider approval of ordinance number G-1276, repealing Article 4, Divisions 1, 2, and 3, Sections 58 through 111, through and including Section 58-188 of the Pittsburg City Code.
Number 4.
No questions, I move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Non-agenda reports and requests. Director of Finance, Jamie Clarkson, will provide the October 31st, 2017 bi-monthly budget review. Jamie.
Good evening again. This is the bi-monthly budget recap for October 31st of this budget year. Approximately 83% of the year has passed. Everything I've got is pretty much green for expenditures, which is under 83%. And if it's green on the revenues, it's at 83 or more. You might notice that like the street and highway sales tax only has 81% on revenues. That's because we passed that new additional quarter-cent sales tax that didn't take effect until October. So I won't see that revenue until December, and then we'll catch up then. So that's why that's a little different. We started the year off with 11.5 million. At the end of October, we got approximately 12.6 million. Couple of notes on this is sales tax through October compared to October of last year is still up 5.3%, which is still impressive for the community. Gaming revenue is averaging $24,400 a month so far to date. Won't have a full year on that until next April, so I'm just kind of looking at it on a monthly average for now. Does anybody got any questions on any of this?
Did we have any idea what this gaming revenue would be? Have we plugged it in any place
What do you,
initially?
annually, you mean? I'm going to say probably on an annualized basis, it's going to be around 250 to 275,000 probably, once we get a full year in, and
Okay, thank you.
which is we never had before. So
We just received this last allocation, and it was the second highest we've had, so
yeah,
I don't know what that means.
it would have
'cause
been for the month of October.
Yeah.
We get it the following month. We got it on November 9th for October, and it was the second highest month we've had so far. So
Good.
thank you.
Thanks, Jamie. Appreciate it. All right, any other non-agenda reports or requests?
I don't have a report or request, but I do have a couple of questions for Darren.
You bet.
About what's the situation with South Rouse?
South Rouse has, I believe, and Cameron will correct me, I know he will because he's been hawking it. I believe it will be bid in December. So that would put it,
Next month.
yes, that would be a
Okay.
March construction date, hopefully.
KDOT is reviewing our last, hopefully final submittal. If there aren't any additional changes to be made, it will be bid out in December. If they have any other revisions, it would be January.
Have all the utilities been moved and that need to be moved so far, Cameron?
I believe Kansas Gas still has a few lines left to be relocated, but everyone else has relocated.
As long as you're standing up there, what about Homer Street, the path to schools?
The Safe Routes to School, that was on the agenda tonight, and that's had been bid by KDOT, and the lowest bidder that was there had some irregularities or had some gaps in their paperwork, so they went with the second lowest bidder. And what the commission did today was to concur with that award and to send KDOT the city's portion of the cost so that they can go ahead and proceed with the paperwork and get that awarded.
Do we have any idea when that'll shovel turn the ground?
We don't know yet. Contractor, once they get the contract in hand, that's when they'll reach out to us. What we've done is give them the flexibility. That's a 30 working day contract, but they'll have the flexibility of being able to start work anytime from once the paperwork is completed with KDOT up to the first week in June, which would be when school is let out.
Thank you.
Are there any updates on the possible school safety zone in front of the high school? What's going on with that?
We continue to have ongoing discussions with KDOT. One of the things that we're looking at is a possibility of a signal there at Free Kings that would allow us to do a number of things that would help improve safety along there.
And the KDOT recommended reducing the speed, wasn't it? I read in the paper. Would that be considered also?
They said that they would not be opposed. Some of the concerns with the lowering that is that would actually reduce the gaps of anyone, especially the school buses turning on to 4th Street there, and it would either slow or also potentially cause more conflict with folks trying to turn onto 4th Street.
Well, I just know most schools does have a school zone with a reduced speed, and I know a lot of people question why that speed can't be reduced there. we have the same issues on all school zones, I would think.
Actually, we have a couple of different issues at that particular school. We sat down with the superintendent and USD 250 to talk about how we could implement some of the recommendations by KDOT. He was pretty clear that the buses, what Cameron's referring to as the way that it's configured there, the way the buses enter and exit the property, if you slow it down to a 20 miles an hour, you won't create the gap in traffic that will allow a bus to come out. So he will have to staff it with a person, which is obviously not the solution any of us are looking for, is anything that has to add a person that's going to stand out in the highway and flag cars every day during school. So we backed up. We do think from Water Street, which is the western edge, as you're coming down 4th Street of really the high school property, you get a situation where I believe it's up to 40 miles an hour. The city thinks that that needs to be reduced to 35 just in general. Why speed people towards a school? If we can get it to 35, we will. We have talked to Destry about reconfiguring the way buses enter and exit over there, and all of that is made possible if you put a light in at Free Kings and 4th Street. So that's why Cameron's referring to a comprehensive look at everything that it's going to take to make that as safe as possible. But it is a unique situation where just about every school you see, and that was ours, is, hey, let's just go to 20-mile-an-hour speed zone. But it creates an issue with the way the buses get in and out of that property. So it's something we need to think about further. But I do think it's something that the last time we met with USD 250 and KDOT, there's a solution there, but it has to be refined before we can probably take it to the public. But I do think it's going to resolve that, because the most important thing is the speed, as we all know. The slower you're going, if there was to happen to be an accident, it's going to be less of an impact on a person and a vehicle. So
Sure.
it's just a little different there, Commissioner, and it's something that we're going to have to keep working on until we can get it perfect. But we're going to work on it, and we're going to get those buses out there, but we don't want to put a person in the highway directing traffic during school, because it's also a highway, and a lot of people are driving down it that aren't dropping anybody off at school. They're just going from one end of the county to the other.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good questions. Good job, Cameron. I don't think the staff has anything else.
Okay.
Thanks for covering for 2 meetings in a row
No problem.
without notice. We'll
Doing
try
it
to
more
tell
often
you.
than that here in a little bit.
Good point.
Good practice. If there are no other questions, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Thank you.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.